Me again. I have done this first day's math video lesson. This is probably my 6th time, so I'm overhearing my own voice at this point. So just know that same old Mrs. Violante, getting mad when things don't work right. But I am gonna keep trying. I want to get this done right. So we're gonna look at metric conversions, and it sounds like a big scary thing. It is King Henry. Okay, which is amazing because we've seen it a million times. So if there's anything in math, that I need you to end up doing and watching me and trying it on your own, I feel like King Henry is a great place to start because we've seen it a ton and a lot of you guys are really good at it and a lot of you guys get it right in homework as long as you know where to stop and where to start on your own. So I think that's really what I would like to work on the most, is the starting and stopping point, because other than that, I honestly think you guys are going to be okay. So if you have your math notebook, that's great. If you don't, totally fine. I have written in my math notebook, I've done this lesson like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times now. So I don't want to waste any more pages. I'm just going to use plain lined paper. If you have that to use, that's great. If you have your notebook, I would prefer you write in your notebook because eventually, hopefully, we get to be back together again. And, I just want to make sure we have everything that we need. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to date it for March the 30th. So on my paper, I'm going to put 3-30 or 3/30, however you want to say it. And then I'm going to give myself a heading then that just says metric conversions. This is King Henry. So I would love for you to just write the letters for King Henry died unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk right across your paper. And if it's in your notebook, just go across the one page in your notebook. Okay, so I'm going to intentionally skip a line under the U, and then I'm going to put liters, meters, grams. So some people say King Henry died unexpectedly. Some people say King Henry died by, but it doesn't matter about the U or the B because it's the unit or the base, but the unit or the base can only be these 3 units: liters, meters, or grams. That's it. Those are the 3 units that King Henry measures. I'm going to highlight something. If you have a crayon or a colored pencil, I'm actually going to box this in, a marker, go ahead and box in that U. If you just have the pencil or the pen that you're writing with, just box it in. This is always like home base. Okay, there's no prefix in front of it. It's just plain old liters, plain old meters, plain old grams. So this K here, the K, the H, the D, this D after the U, the C, the M, they all are going to turn out to stand for prefixes. So this K, if you guys can write right underneath it, kilo, K-I-L-O. That would be the prefix that would go in front of liters, meters, or grams. So right underneath this, on the same line here, you guys, oh, there we go, that I have liters, under the K, I'm going to put a KL. Okay? If kilo is the prefix and liters is the unit, this would be K for kilo, L for liters. Kiloliters. I'm going to put a KM. If kilo's the prefix and meters is the unit, K for kilo, M for meters, kilometers. And a lot of people, when they talk, they don't pronounce that like kilometers, kiloliters. They'll say kiloliters, kilometers, which I think I do that too, especially when I'm like in the groove of things. So it's fine. They're talking kilo, killa, however you want to say it. It is the K for King Henry, okay? So if this line is for grams, I'm going to put a kg. So if kilo is the K, this would be kilo for the K for kilo, the G for grams, kilograms. But a lot of people, I'm sure you've heard the term kilograms. Okay, that's what they're talking about. Same thing, I promise. So the H then, you guys, stands for hecto. It's Hecto. So I'll put an HL if hecto is the prefix and liters is the unit, hectoliters. I'm going to put an HM if hecto is the prefix and meters is the unit, it's hectometers. And then I'm going to put an HG if hecto is the prefix and grams is the unit, it's hectograms. But like I feel like I just said hectometers, not hectometers. So I gotta get better about that. Hectometers, hectograms. Okay, so quickly, the D's are confusing because they essentially would have the same abbreviation because it would be like this D is the larger one. So everything in front of the U, they are larger units. So kilo, hecto, deca, they are larger units. And then after it, you guys, let's see, why is this not working? There we go. I have deci, it's DECI, centi, CENTI, and milli, MILLI. But what I want you to understand is these are just prefixes. So this would be like decaliters, decameters, decagrams. This would be decaliters, decimeters, decigrams. And I am going to use the big D for deca and the lowercase d for deci only because everything after the U ends in I, so deci, centi, milli, but deci, centi, and milli, they are such small units of measurement. They're really, really, really tiny. So I'm just going to just show a lowercase d for deci and an uppercase D for deca. So deca is before the U, deci is after. So then we'll put a CL for centiliters, a CM for centimeters, and then a CG for centigrams. I'm going to put an ML for milliliters, an MM for millimeters, and an MG for milligrams. But what I want you guys to see is that liters, meters, grams, they don't have prefixes. They are just the unit. So what I want to do is I want to walk us through maybe like 2, 3, you guys know me, it's probably going to be like 4 or 5 examples where I walk you through it. And then I want to give you a couple where I will let you try it, which means I'm going to ask you to pause me, try it, and then you can unpause me when you're ready and I'll go through the rest of the problem and give you the answer. I think today the biggest thing that I really want you to focus on is figuring out the stopping and starting point. Because if you can do that, then we should be okay. Because again, we've seen these in homework. And I think this part here is probably going to be maybe overwhelming just because it's a lot of information for some of you. But you're not going to be looking at multiple problems at one time. We're only going to focus on one problem at a time. So I think that'll make it a little bit easier too. So here's my paper. Hopefully you're in your notebook. If you're on paper, me too, so it's fine. Let's say that this is example 1, okay? So let's say 15 centimeters is going to be equal to some amount of meters. Well, the first thing I want you to realize is this C, because it has 2 letters here, the first letter, you guys, that's always going to be the prefix. I'm grabbing a red pen, so sorry if it went, out of focus for a second. But if it has 2 letters, the first letter is always the prefix. So because this prefix is C, that tells me it's got to be centi. So they're looking at centi. So this is saying 15 centimeters is equal to some amount of meters. But even if they would have just put an M for meters, if it's just one letter, there is no prefix. That means it's got to be the unit. It's just the unit because every other letter stands for a prefix. So because they're looking at meters, meters is a unit of measurement that is measured by using King Henry. So this tells me, because they're using meters, that I can go ahead and solve this problem just by using the letters for King Henry died. Now, the hard part for you guys is going to be figuring out what letter you start on and what letter you stop on. Because even if you can figure out what letters you need to move between, if you don't start at the right spot, you're going to be moving the decimal point in the wrong direction. So even if you're supposed to move it 3 times, but you're supposed to move it 3 times to the right, and you end up moving the decimal 3 times to the left, well, you're making a completely new number, and you're going to be doing work, and it's going to be wrong, and I don't want you to do wrong work. So if you're looking at something that looks like this, okay, where they're giving you both pieces of information and then they're asking you for a missing piece, I cannot start at meters. And I cannot start at meters for this example because there's a missing piece here. So this essentially, you guys, this would be the question mark, okay, what we're trying to find out. Because I have both pieces on this side, I'm going to start where I have both pieces. So because I have the number and the letters, or even if it's the whole word written out, because I have both pieces, the number and the unit of measurement, that's where I need to start. So because this prefix here is centi, that tells me that I need to go ahead and I need to circle the C in my letters for King Henry. Because if this is my starting point, I'm going to put an S right here for start. It's asking me to get an answer in meters. And because there's no prefix, if it's just the letter by itself, it's just regular old meters, nothing with it, no kilo, hecto, deca, none of those things, it's just meters, that's just my unit. There is no prefix, but that's the U, okay? That's my unit. So I'm going to put an E above the unit. And I know that you might not have a different color, but if you would just use your pencil, okay, you can see it, I promise. Just if I'm going fast and you're like, whoa, hold on, just pause me, rewind me, okay? This is the one time that you guys get to pause my talking. So this is amazing for you. So just pause me if I'm going too fast. But if you can figure out the starting and ending point, this becomes so much easier. And you can only start where you have both pieces of information. So one big thing that I want you to realize is that when you loop on the letters, I'm not going to be looping in between letters. I'm going to be looping from one letter to the next letter until I get from my starting point to my stopping point. I'm looping on the letters, right from letter to letter. So to get me from centi back to the unit, that is 1, 2, but it's 2 loops, you guys, to the left. So once you figure out how many loops you're making on the letters, you're going to take the only number that you're given. So for number 1, the only number that I'm given is the number 15. There is no decimal point. So you can stick the decimal point right at the back like you normally would. And then if you're moving 2 times to the left, we'll take that decimal point and move it 2 times to the left. Now here's what I've seen happen a million times. Whenever we start looping on letters and we're just going from letter to letter, when we start looping the decimal in the numbers, people start looping from number to number. But we've never done that. We have never, ever done that. So if I'm going to loop 2 times to the left, and I want to cover it with my fat fingers, I am going to take the decimal, and I'm not going to go 5 and then 1, because if it lands on top of the number, you're going to be super confused. It's either got to be behind it or in front of it. So we're looping in between. This is 1 loop. This is 2 loops. 2 loops to the left. Okay, the same way we've always done it. But now the decimal point's in front of the 1. So they're asking 15 centimeters is equal to how many meters? Well, I got a decimal point. I've got a 1, and then a 5. This is my answer. That number, you guys, says 15/100th. 15/100ths. So 15 centimeters is equal to 15/100th meters. And just like that, you're done. Guys, it is that easy as long as you start and stop at the right spot. So let's do another one. Okay, so I'm going to move my paper up. I'm going to draw a line right underneath. And I'm going to say that this then is number 2. I'm going to say 0 and 195 kilograms. kilograms, however you want to say it, is equal to some amount of grams. And I know some of you might be confused because I put a capital K and a capital G and then it's lowercase. It's just find the letters that you need. That's really all we're doing. We're finding the letters that we need, okay? Because those letters stand for a prefix and a unit. But I know that it's a prefix and a unit because there's two letters here. So the first letter is the prefix, K, kilo, okay? And then the G, the gram, because it's the same unit of measurement, that tells me that it is going to be King Henry because grams is one of the units of measurement that King Henry can use. So if I know it's King Henry, I'm going to set up my letters. King Henry died unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. I know I cannot start on this side because this is my blank piece. This is what I don't know. And I can't start with something that I don't know. So we're going to have to start on the side that has both the numbers and the letters. But if I were starting over here, then I need to really focus on the K, because that's going to be my starting point. It wants me to get to grams, and because it's just one letter by itself, because it's just normal regular grams, there's no other letter in front, there's no prefix, that's just my unit. So this is going to be my ending point. When you loop on the letters, you're going letter to letter. So from the K for kilo to the U for unit, that is 1, 2, 3. But you guys, it's 3 loops to the right. You can't just make sure you do 3 loops, because if you're supposed to go right and you go left, it's not going to be correct. So take the number that you're given, which is 0 and 195 thousandths, and let's move this decimal 3 times to the left like you did on the letters. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3. And when we do the letter, or the numbers, we're going in between each one because it's got to be in front or behind. It can't be on top of a number. So now I have a 0, a 1, a 9, a 5, and a decimal point at the end. But you guys, that number is the same as this number because there's a 0 in the thousandths place, which means there's nothing in the thousandths place. But this is 195. So 0 and 195 kilograms is equal to 195 grams. And if you keep the 0 here, it doesn't matter. It's the same number. That number is still 195. So let's do one more. I'll walk you through one more, and then we'll do 3 or 4 where you try them, okay? So let's put the blank in the front. Let's say some amount of decaliters. And I'm even going to write deca right underneath it just so we see it, okay? Some amount of decaliters is equal to 15 liters. Well, deca and deci are always something that a lot of kids have trouble with because normally you see a C, you find the C. You see a K, you find a K. But if you see a D, there are 2 Ds. So the easiest way that I have found to make this make sense is that everything after the U ends in I. Deci ends in I. Centi ends in I. Milli ends in I. So because deca it does not end in an I, it's got to be the D in front of the U because everything after the U ends in an I. But because there's this L, the L is liters, and liters is a unit of measurement that King Henry can measure, that's how we automatically know we're using King Henry. Anytime it's liters, meters, or grams. So this is liters, that's what the L stands for. So I'm going to go ahead and do my letters for King Henry died unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. And I wanted to put the blank part here in the front because I know that if you guys see it that way when I ask you to do the independent practice, I feel like if I don't show it to you, some of you are going to be really confused. But it's not, you're not always going to start in the front. Like, especially for number 3 here, I can't start in the front. I can't start with the front piece of information because that's where my little blank is. I can't start with something that I don't know. So I'm going to start over here where I have the numbers and the unit, but because it's just one letter, because there's no prefix in front of it, this is just the unit. So I'm going to circle the U because the liters falls, plain old liters falls right under the unit. This is my starting point. I'm starting here. It wants me to get to decaliters. And remember, I even wrote deca just so we would make sure we know. Guys, this one is deca. Deca's in front of the U. This is deca. This is my ending point for number 3. Now, this really, if this is my starting point at the U for unit and my ending point is this D for deca, that's easy. It's one loop, but it is one loop to the left. So if I have the number 15, okay, no decimal point, I'll stick it at the back, but I'm looping one time to the left. So pick up the decimal, move it one time to the left. Well, now it's right in between the 1 and the 5. So they're asking, or I'm asking, how many decaliters are equal to 15 liters? Well, I got a 1. I got a decimal point, 1 decimal point, and 5. So 1.5. It really can be very simple, especially because we've seen it before. I mean, most of you guys are probably like thinking, I get it, lady, but there's probably like 6 or 7 of you that just don't get it, and that's okay. We're going to keep practicing. All we're going to do this week is practice this stuff. So let's say for 4, 5, and 6, I'm going to try to be really good about stopping myself from talking, which you guys know is hard for me. I love to talk, so we'll see how it goes. But let's say this is 4, okay? Let's say some amount of decigrams, and I'm even going to put deci, D-E-C-I, right underneath it just so you know. Some amount of decigrams is equal to 17 grams. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of this. I just want you to remember that if it's 2 letters, that first letter is the prefix. So I know it's hard with the D's, but I'm telling you it's deci, okay? It's my lowercase d. I'm telling you it's deci. But I want you to remember, if you get stuck, especially on the D's, please look at this. I asked you to write it down for a reason. So deci is the D after the U, behind the U. So I know for sure that this is going to be King Henry. But I know for sure it is because it's talking about grams, and grams is a unit of measurement that King Henry measures. So let me move all my junk over. If I know I'm using King Henry, I'm going to put letters for King Henry died unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. We cannot start with the deci. Can't, because this, you guys, this is our missing piece. This is what we don't know. So I want you to circle the letters and put an S where you think you're starting, and then put an E where you think you're ending. And when you're ready, I want you to unpause the video. So pause it and do your circles, and then unpause me when you're ready. Hopefully you're ready. We cannot start at deci. So we have to start here where we have the number and the unit, where we have both pieces of information. But because it's just one letter by itself, there's no prefix. Guys, this is my unit. So we're going to start right at the unit. So this is where you should have put an S. You should be starting at the unit, for sure. Now, deci, we've already said, is the one that's behind or after the U. So this right here, this is deci. But because I want my answer to be in decigrams, this right here is going to be my ending point. But then this becomes simple because they're right next to each other. I'm starting at U, I'm ending at deci. So it's just one loop, but it's one loop to the right. That's a big important part. So then we take our number, 17. No decimal, stick it at the back. I want you to figure out how many decigrams are equal to 17 grams. You can unpause me when you're ready to go. If you're moving 1 time to the right, take this decimal and I want you to move it 1 time to the right. And any extra empty spots, we can only put zeros there. So this is what this number looks like now, with a decimal at the back. But this number is just 170. So you should have been able to tell me that 170 decigrams are equal to 17 grams. I want to do 5 and 6 just the same type of way. So I'm going to do a little bit with you, and I want you to do a little bit on your own, and then pause me and unpause me when you're ready to roll. Let's say 14 and 5600th liters is equal to some amount of milliliters. Now, we know that liters is able to be King Henry. King Henry can measure liters. So these are King Henry died unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. Now, we can't start on milliliters. This M is a prefix. Okay, it's my prefix M, so it's right here, but I cannot start here because this is my blank. I can't start if I don't know what I need. I have to start where I have both pieces of information. Because this is just liters, there's no prefix, that's my unit. But because this is the side where I have the numbers and the unit, this is my starting point. Now, if it's milliliters, which it is, M is my milli. Guys, this is my ending point. I want you to see, pause me, and see if you can figure out how many milliliters are equal to 14 and 5600th liters. If we know we're going from the U for unit for liters to the M for milliliters, then this is 1, or is it 2, sorry, 3, but it's 3 times to the right. So take the number that you're given, 14 and 5600ths. Let's move this decimal point 3 times to the right. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3. And anytime there's an extra empty spot, we put a 0 there. So all I need you to do, because this is a longer number, make sure you write down each thing. I have a 1, I have a 4, I have a 5, I have a 6, I have a 0, and the decimal is now after the 0. So there are 14,560 milliliters in 14 and 5600th liters. That's what that means. I want to do another one where it's not the U for unit. Okay, because I feel like we should be okay with the unit where there's no prefix. So let's say this is maybe our last one. Let's try, let's see here. Oh, why not? Let's say 18 and 402 thousandth hectometers is going to be equal to some amount, let's say, of centimeters. So we're not using the unit because now both sides have a prefix. Okay, but we can do this. It's the same as always. Because the M is the same, meters, that's my unit, and meters is one of the units that King Henry can measure, we can still use the letters. We're just not going to use the U. So let's go ahead. We'll do King Henry died unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. I cannot start at the C because this is the side that has a piece of missing information. So I can't start at centimeters. I'm going to have to start here at hectometers because this is where I have the number and the unit. But guys, my prefix is H. Here's the H. Okay, this right here, this is my S. This is my starting point. They want my answer in centimeters, which tells me that C for centimeters, I find the C, my ending point, so I'm going to put an E here. So right now, I'm going from the H for hecto to the C for centi. So, oops, sorry. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, but that's 4 loops to the right. So then let's take the number. I want you to pause me and then unpause me when you can tell me how many centimeters are equal to 18 and 402 thousandth hectometers. Well, if I'm going to move 4 times to the right, I'm going to pick up this decimal point, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and any extra empty spot, I'm plugging in a 0. So when I write this, I'm going to make sure I've got the 1, I've got an 8, that's not, the decimals moved, so that's not there anymore. I got a 4, I got a 0, I got a 2, and a 0. Decimals at the back. So there are 184,020 centimeters and 18 and 402 thousandth hectometers. I want to be honest, okay? If you're struggling, if you still feel like I need a couple more examples or I don't really get it, please rewatch the video. I know that listening to me for 30 minutes, okay? I know, but you listen to me all the time. Okay, for 2 hours at a time. So we should be fine here. I really want you to understand this. And as long as you can honestly figure out your starting and your ending point, I really don't see, especially for day 1, where we could have major issues. When you're done and you feel comfortable with what we looked at in the video together, I'm going to ask you to do something on Pearson and Vision, which is our online math book, which you should have already looked at if you watched that second video. It was like in the start here videos, says watch me video 2. If you watch that, that's where it's taking you. And there are 8 questions for today, but most of them are just you moving the decimal point and using the letters for King Henry correctly and making sure you start where you're supposed to start and end where you're supposed to end. So I feel like you guys will be fine to do that. And I want you to go through the 8 problems as many times as you feel comfortable for. So I know that there are some of you that will fly through it one time, get 6 out of the 8 of them wrong, and then you'll say, I know how to do it, I'm not going back and doing it. Well, if you don't go back and do it, I'm asking you to do exit ticket questions for me. So that's how I'm going to be able to hold you guys accountable. I know that this is weird, okay? I get that this is not a normal situation, but I don't want you sitting home and clicking through all my stuff and clicking through all of Mrs. Williams' stuff to go play your video games or so you can send weird Snapchats to each other, okay? I want you to take it seriously because my hope is that eventually we'll be back in class together and I don't want to have to redo King Henry, okay? I miss you guys like crazy. And I wish we were doing normal school days, but that's just not where we are right now. So I would love for you to take it seriously, and I would love for you to do the 8 questions as many times as it takes for you to feel comfortable, because I have 3 exit ticket questions for you all about King Henry. I feel like you guys should be fine. All right. Good luck. You don't need luck. You guys are going to be great. And that's it. All right. Bye.